You and your buddies go out and you just get drunk on a Saturday night. One of your friends finds you asleep on the street the next morning. Is that going to happen the next week?
Yes, here we go. We are all back for the football forecast here on the Empty the Bench Podcast Network. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/ETB Network, where we just hit over the 1,000 subscriber mark. So congratulations to all of us, and congratulations to you for listening and watching us at home. Of course, make sure you can also follow us on our social media handles at TFB Forecast ETB across all handles there. And of course, like I said, youtube.com/ETB Network. And you can also listen to the football forecast wherever you get your favorite podcasts. So if you can't watch us, if you're on the go, or if you want to just hear us on the audio side, that you have that option as well. And the football forecast is presented by Playback. Stay tuned later on in the show for a word about our great sponsor, Playback. Well, guys, it's good to be back with all of you. It's just the start of my fourth football forecast year, my 14th overall, making picks and stuff, and we're going to get to that next week. But we're here in the AFC. It's going to be interesting because we got 3 AFC East guys with us here today as we preview the AFC as a whole. The preseason is complete. Our preseason starts now ahead of the regular season, which is right around the corner. Well, and we were going to get to the AFC East, but I think I want to start things off out west at the AFC West because, I think it's only fair that we start with the reigning AFC champion Kansas City Chiefs. And guys, this is a division that is going to be, I think for the last couple of years I've said this, is going to be a very interesting division to watch. Obviously, the Chiefs, you've been in the Super Bowl a lot over the last couple of years, but it's going to be interesting to see can they rebound off that Super Bowl blowout. Is that going to serve as extra motivation going into the season? Are the extra playoff games going to take their toll? Are they going to have like a 49ers meltdown or hangover, I should say? We saw what happened with the 49ers last year. Is that kind of hangover going to happen with them? And the other factor too, and Nick Morgasen, I'll start with you on this. This division's gotten stronger. The Broncos are coming off of a very good year last year. The Chargers made the playoffs in their first year under Jim Harbaugh. And we can't forget about the Las Vegas Raiders. I mean, it's easy to forget about them, but they brought in Pete Carroll, a legitimate head coach, and Geno Smith to be their quarterback. And we know about the connection they had in Seattle. So what do you make of all this, looking at this division?
Yeah, it's a strong division. The Chiefs, obviously, everyone did a lot of pressure. Obviously, not that I really want to talk about it, but the Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift news that happened a couple days ago.
You didn't have to bring it up.
You knew someone was going to bring it up anyway. I mean,
you didn't say anything. You said it, not us.
If I have to hear one more Shake It Off reference, I'm going to go crazy. But I don't know. And we're going to get into the numbers later, but I think the over-under number is high. I'm just going to throw that out there to begin with. Travis Kelce is an older tight end. I think that's going to come into the equation. Rice, their wide receiver, is going to be suspended due to the arrest that he had. So I think that comes into a major factor. And like you said, Johnny, I think the teams are better. I think Bo Nix is going to have an incredible season coming up for the Broncos. I think having Peyton there for experience is also good. That's going to help him grow. The Chargers are the Chargers. I think they're going to be a middle-of-the-road team. I think that they're going to be above 500. They're going to win a ton of games. Can they win the division? I don't know. The Raiders, I think they're going to be at the anchor of this division. I think they're the worst team in the division. But Pete Carroll is a veteran coach. He could probably get some wins out of that team. My thoughts on Geno. I don't have to go into that. But I think this is a Broncos and Chiefs division. And I think whoever is healthiest, I mean, we could say that about any division. I think the Broncos have a legitimate chance to win this division, but I'm not going to throw the Chiefs away that easy.
Yeah, the one thing I'll mention, you were saying about Rashid Rice before I go over to Nick D, is so that trial is not starting until September 30th, I believe, and that would make him eligible to play in the Chiefs' first 4 games of the year. And if you remember, the Chiefs do start on that Friday night in Brazil against the Chargers. Nick D, we can't forget about the Chargers, though. First year in Jim Harbaugh, and they got rid of a couple of Justin Herbert's receivers. He really had one big receiver, and that was Conley. But yet this team still made the playoffs. Yeah, they got bounced out in the wild card, but we can't rule them out either, right?
No. Well, first of all, in my view, and I feel this way generally about the NFL this season, I think that the teams on the margins those matchups are more interesting than division winners, because of 6 of the 8 divisions in the NFL, you could pretty easily predict who's going to win. And everybody's talking about like Colin Cowherd talked about it. It was like, the Chiefs are not going to be as dominant essentially because their division is going to be a little harder. I mean, let's not forget the Chiefs won. They went 15-2 last season, and literally because one of the games they lost on purpose. So more effectively 15-1 and then that last game. So it's not like people are making it sound like they barely slid past in their division last season when they lost one game. They only lost one game that they weren't trying to lose. So I just don't really buy that any of these teams have any legitimate shot at beating the Chiefs unless, God forbid, there's some type of crazy Mahomes injury or something like that. But outside of something like that, I don't think any of them have any of these other 3 teams have a real shot. But I will say is that I do think that the 3 teams other than the Chiefs, that's interesting. And in a weird way, I think this division might be like the SEC of the NFL. I mean, it's a really all the teams aren't great, but it's a really deep division. And I think the 3 of these teams can be very good teams. And Nick, you were talking about how you think the Broncos have a legitimate shot at winning the division. I was like, I think there's a legitimate shot the Broncos finish in last place. That's more likely to happen than them winning the division. I think that there will be a sophomore slump, and I think it will be Bo Nix. I think Bo Nix will have a bit of a sophomore slump this upcoming season, and I wouldn't be surprised if Denver finishes in last place. Anywhere from second to last place, Denver finishing would not surprise me.
So you don't have the Raiders finishing last?
No. Well, I'm not saying it's not my – I think that the Raiders could easily finish in second place or third place. Maybe not second. I like the Chargers at second, but I think that it is not to me such a given that the Raiders are going to finish in last place. Now they have Pete Carroll coaching Geno Smith, which worked out pretty well in Seattle. And don't forget, Chip Kelly is now their offensive coordinator. So I think the coaching at the Raiders is good. And Geno Smith is the system quarterback. He's good when he has good coaches. So, and like I said, let's not forget, Denver, it can't really be overemphasized that Denver crashed and burned at the end of last season. They lost 2 of their last 3 in the regular season, and that's because the Chiefs, like I said, lost on purpose. Towards the end of the season, the wins that they had were not all that impressive. And then they got blown out by the Bills. It is not a given to me that Denver is going to be so good next year. And the thing is that I think they'll improve over time, but progress in football is not so linear. It would not surprise me if Denver finishes with 8-9 or something like that in last place in the division. It would not shock me.
So are you telling me that the Raiders are going to have more than 8 wins?
I think they can. I think they can get more than 7 or 8 wins. I haven't really broke it down in terms of games I think they're going to win and lose, but I think the Raiders can actually be a good team, or at least an okay team. An okay team, I think they can.
By the way, I don't know if I trust Chip Kelly, who jumps from job to job, either.
Chip Kelly is a really good offensive mind. Look what he did last year at Ohio State.
No, I get it, but he jumps from job to job when he's not happy at a job.
Well, okay, but I don't think that has to do with how, first of all, if you have the ability to bounce from job to job, you're probably a pretty good head coach because you're not desperate. I mean, he got a better job than he had at Ohio State. Really good college head coach, and I think an underrated NFL head coach. But he's a really good offensive mind. He's one of the best offensive minds in football.
I just worry about Geno because Geno's got the injury history, too.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I would worry about, and I know that for a fact. You know that for a fact, too, being a Jet fan. So
I think that's the biggest concern. I think that if Geno stays healthy, it is not such a – look, we're just assuming everybody's going to stay healthy. It is not a given to me at all that the Raiders are going to be dead last. It doesn't look like that.
Yeah, one major injury shakes up this whole entire division and really shakes up the league in general. Let me get Ben into this. Ben, what do you make about this division?
Yeah, I think overall, I look at this overall division. I think it's the top two teams are the Chiefs and the Broncos. I think that the Broncos. I respectfully disagree with Nick per se with the Broncos because I think with Bo Nix it was his first year, and I think that I feel like a lot of people kind of put Bo Nix to the side when it came down to a lot of the impressive guys as a rookie for quarterbacks. You talk about guys like Drake May, Jaden Daniels, a lot of these other guys, and then it's like, oh yeah, by the way, Bo Nix was really, really good under Sean Payton. And I do understand the sophomore slumps, but I do think that the Broncos going to need the addition of J.K. Dobbs in the running game, getting Evan Ingram in the tight end game. I think you added some more guys for Bo Nix, and I think that just only makes a case where it should be able to help him more than hurt him. I also think that the defense should be okay. I mean, the Chargers overall, I think their running game with J.K. is going to be a big loss. I don't really believe in that running game now, and with Harbaugh, they love to run the football. So, I mean, obviously I could be wrong, but like there's no other guy that I look at right now at the running game that screams to me like it's going to be a big guy for Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert, another thing too, I really like Herbert, but it's like who are some other guys, outside of Ladd McConkey and Quentin Johnson that you could pretty much be banking on. I do think the loss of Joey Bosa, even though Joey Bosa is obviously getting older in age, I think that's a very, very tough loss for them for their front. I look at the Raiders. I do agree with you, Nick, in terms of the Pete Carroll hire is a good hire. However, Pete Carroll is just coming back into the league. You don't know specifically how he's going to be with the overall new team. Granted, yes, he's with a quarterback that he knows and he's coached before, but it's probably a new, different type of situation over there, and you just don't know specifically the shifting over from one to another, how it's going to work out. So,
well, let me just respond to that.
Yeah.
It worked out pretty well in Seattle when he never coached Geno Smith. He
Sure.
never coached him before at all. Now he's at least coaching Geno Smith, a guy that he has experience coaching.
Right.
So why would it look any worse?
Well, I'm just saying. I mean, listen, bouncing from one to the other, you just never know. I mean, I think it's a really good thing to have on paper, but until like the game specifically are being played on the field, you just don't know specifically how it's going to work out.
It's also different systems. Just because you coach somebody on a different team doesn't mean the systems are the same either.
It could work out better again. I'm not
Carroll will be running the offense though, so he's gonna. I mean, I'm not saying the system is gonna be identical necessarily, but I'm sure it'll be pretty similar. I mean, like that's as close as you're gonna get, like a head coach quarterback combo that are just on different teams now. Like that's as close as you're gonna get.
I would also say the Raiders are more a run-first offense. Seattle was more of a throw-first offense also. So I would say it's a little different in that regard.
Analyzing it a little bit. I think you're overanalyzing it a little.
I'm just saying from a standpoint, the Raiders are more of a run offense. He's not a running quarterback. He's not one that really leaves the pocket.
You don't think Geno Smith leaves the pocket?
I really don't. No, because that's why he got sacked all the time, because he never left the pocket.
I think that Geno actually can run the ball a lot more than people think. I think it's more the fact is that with him, it's about his accuracy. I think that there's a lot of times his accuracy can be very up and down. So granted, I think that, all things considered in terms of what I was mentioning, I think the Chiefs are my number one just because they have that championship pedigree, that DNA. You've got Mahomes and Reed. I can't go against them, consistently. I just can't as of right now until somebody takes over the reins. I think the Broncos to me are the number two. I think that when it comes to, between Sean Payton and Bo Nix, I think that if you told me the other couple teams, those, quarterback and coaching duo, I'm taking the Broncos and with Bo Nix and Sean Payton to be at least that number 2 seed. And then you can make pretty much an argument for the other two. I could theoretically see the Raiders being in third place. I really could because, with the Chargers, I don't know. With Herbert, I like Herbert a lot, but
it's a wild card.
I don't really know what to really make about the Chargers defense this year. I really don't. So I think that really the Broncos and the Chiefs are kind of the number 1, 2, and then it's just be kind of a throw in from there.
Think about this. Think about how elite the coaching is in this division. You have a division where, like, you have Andy Reid, arguably the best NFL coach ever. You have Sean Payton, who is probably the weakest of all the coaches. Jim Harbaugh and Pete Carroll, who are like the only two or one of the very few coaches to be successful in college and the NFL. And Chip Kelly, who's probably like overqualified to be an offensive coordinator, arguably. And so, I mean, like, that's as good of coaching as you're going to get in the NFL in that division. And to be clear, I did say the Broncos kind of crashed and burned last season at the end, and that often carries over into the next season. Just a lot of times in sports that kind of does happen. I will also have to say that's a little bit true. That's certainly true of the Chargers also, that they kind of crashed and burned last season. And I'm not super confident in the Chargers either. I just never really got to it. I like the Chargers to be in second place, but I'm not super confident in them as a team either.
I mean, let's put it this way, because I didn't say I still have the Chiefs winning this division. Do I think it's going to be a runaway though, like it was last year? I just don't see it being a runaway. I just don't.
So just two things to that. Number one, this is actually the winningest division in terms of the coaches. It's the winningest division of coaches in NFL history with all four of these teams. And I'm going to add one element into this conversation too. The way the Chiefs were last year, if they play like that into this year, they will not be 15-2, because there's one element that we have to look at, and obviously this is going to be for all four of these teams. It's the schedule. If you look at the Chiefs' schedule going into this season, they open up on that Friday night in Brazil against the Chargers. But here are some of their non-conference games: the Eagles, or non-divisional games even. The Eagles, the Ravens, the Lions, the Bills in Buffalo, and we all know that's what that's like in the regular season. The Cowboys, I mean, we don't know what the Cowboys are going to be, but still, I mean, not only just the divisional games, which all four teams can win and on any given Sunday. And I look at that when I look at my team when we talk about the NFC tomorrow. But not only just the divisional games, but then you got to go up against the Super Bowl champion Eagles in week 2. You got the Ravens, who I will get to them in just a little bit, and the Lions, who are also a very, very good team. And the Lions beat them, obviously, all different 2 years ago. And the Bills, who they always have fits against in the regular season. So I don't see this team being a runaway 15-win team. I actually really think they're like a 10 or 11-win team. Now, that's still probably good enough to win a division, because I think this division is going to be really close. Mm-hmm. The thing is, the Chargers and the Broncos are very tough to figure out. I think in the Raiders situation, unless there's going to be a very significant injury on one of these teams, I just don't think that the Geno Pete Carroll connection, I just don't think the talent's going to carry over in year one. It might take them 2 years. I also know they brought in Amari Cooper too. I think they need another year. I think they need more than just 1 year though. The Broncos, I'll say this. I like the fact they brought in some running backs, because that was one thing they didn't have last year. That defense, they did shore it up a little bit. They did shore it up a little bit, because we saw they gave up a lot of runs. They did shore it up a little bit. So bringing in those running guys like a J.K. Dobbins and drafting R.J. Harvey, I think that actually helps Bo Nix, because he doesn't have to do as much as he did in his rookie year, and that'll help too. And the Chargers did draft some receivers as well, and they did sign Najee Harris to be in the running back position. But yeah, the Bosa is a big loss. It's very tough. I think the Chiefs win this, but it's not going to be a 15-2 win Chiefs team. This might be more like an 11 or 12 win team, if that. I'm going to take them to win. I think they win the division, but it's going to be very, very close. This is going to be very, very tough. It's going to be a very tough year for the Chiefs because they're not going to be as dominant as they've been in years past. But I'll take them to win the division. I'm going to take the Broncos second, the Chargers third, and the Raiders.
I just want to point out one thing also. So ESPN put out a strength of schedule. Mm-hmm. The Chiefs are 11th on the strength of schedule. Opponents combined 2024 record 151 and 138. Schedule includes 10 2024 playoff teams. So
wait, that's last season or this season?
That's going into this season. They used last season to figure out this year's strength of schedule.
Oh, so that's their projected strength of schedule.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to say, because that doesn't take into account how good the teams are actually going to end up being. But I'm sure the Niners would have been really good for strength of schedule for the Jets last season. And how did that work out?
Yeah, but to have 10 2024 playoff teams in your schedule.
True. No, you got a fair point.
That's a lot.
Yeah, the AFC. Remember, the AFC West is playing the NFC East this year, and we all know the Commanders were coming off a great year. The Cowboys can still be frisky. The Eagles are the Super Bowl champions, so you got to factor that in. And then you also are playing the Lions. That's what I'm saying. This is actually a very, very challenging schedule for the Chiefs. I think this is going to be the toughest year that they've had to face. I think they can still get it done, but you also wonder, do all those games that they've played in the playoffs start to take a toll on them too? We'll find out there. It should be a fun division out there in the AFC West. All right, moving things over to the AFC South, guys. Obviously, when you look at the South, we have to start with the Houston Texans, who are back-to-back winners of the divisions. They're the favorites here in 2025 to win it. Now, they won 10 games in each of their last 2 years. They've never done so in 3 straight, nor have they made the playoffs in 3 straight seasons. And to me, it really all comes down to the offensive line for the Texans, because I think that was a big reason why C.J. Stroud and this offense struggled despite a 10-win year last year. But then again, we saw what they did in the playoffs, how they, in the second half against the Chargers, showed the potential they could be. Now, this is a division that also has the Jaguars, who have arguably the most exciting player to watch in 2025 in two-way player Travis Hunter. You've got the Colts, and you've got the Titans as well, who I think are going to be in for long years as well. But Nick D, I think to me, this comes down to the Texans, and it comes down to the Jaguars. If Trevor Lawrence is healthy and can be the Lawrence that he was at the end of 22 into 23, I think it comes down to these two teams in the South. What do you think?
I actually kind of think so too. I think that might be the case in terms of the Jaguars. I still like the Texans. I don't know. I feel like all these Southern divisions are just really weak. I don't even think the Texans have to have a good. I don't even think the Texans have to have a good season just to have the division locked up. I mean, they didn't have a great season last year, and they were still able to win the division pretty easily. I don't think it's going to be as easy as it was last season. You never know with Daniel Jones. I'm not a Daniel Jones fan or anything, but he can be fairly competent at times, and maybe he needed a little bit of a change of scenery. You just never know. And maybe the Jaguars with Travis Hunter, I don't know how much he's going to be playing both ways, to be honest. And when he gets to the NFL as a rookie, I do have some doubts about that. I don't think Trevor Lawrence is going to have the season he had last season. I don't think it's going to be quite that bad. But I would say my prediction would be Texans in first place, Jaguars in second, Colts third, Tennessee fourth.
Ben, what do you make of this?
Yeah, I agree with Nick. I think that when you look at this overall division, I think that a lot of the teams are fairly flawed, and then you have the Titans, which I think is going to be they're going to be there. They're just not. They're more of a rebuilding team than ever. So it's really just kind of the 3 teams just kind of being up there as like a wild card, like throw in terms of where you kind of want to put them in the overall division. I will say the Texans, I think C.J. Stroud, like Nick was mentioning about Trevor Lawrence, I think that C.J. Stroud has a much better third year than he did in his second year. I really do. I think that Nico Collins, him being out for a lot of the year from last year, really hurt him because he's one of their main guys, for Stroud. And then I will say the loss of Joe Mixon, early on this season could be a massive loss because they do rely on their running game. So I think that's one thing to look at. But I do really think that the defense, with Willie Anderson, Danielle Hunter, a couple of guys at that front, I do think will really help them a lot, especially in those division games. And then in the Jacksonville, team, obviously Travis Hunter, I do think he's actually going to be playing a lot because, outside of Calvin, no, not Calvin Ridley, because they had he's over with Tennessee, Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter. I mean, that's kind of really their guys that Lawrence has. I think that the Jaguars are going to be fine, but I think it's be kind of more like a 7 to 9 winish type of team. All these type of teams I really feel like are just be kind of neck and neck, and it's just whoever basically comes out of this is pretty much just going to probably be in the playoffs and probably be bounced early on and often. I'm not a big believer really in a lot of these teams personally in this division. And then the number 3 team is the Colts. I think that the Colts, Daniel Jones, I agree with Nick. I'm not the biggest believer in Daniel Jones. I don't understand why Anthony Richardson has not gotten a shot. Personally, I know that obviously last year had a lot of injuries, so I guess that can make up for it. But, you're going to replace him with Daniel Jones, a guy that gets sacked a lot, throws a lot of interceptions. And, for a guy like Michael Pittman, Jonathan Taylor, I feel very, very bad for you, in terms of being able to get your touches at a consistent rate. And Tyler Warren, I think Tyler Warren's a pretty good guy that they can have as a pass catcher. I really liked him from the draft. But, I don't know. I think I'm going to go with Nick. I think it's going to be probably Houston at 1, Jacksonville 2, India 3, and then Tennessee at 4.
Nick, what do you make of this?
So I think there's more questions with the Texans than we're really making this out to be. You're forgetting the Tank Dell injury, which was bad. It was season ending. I think it was early in the year too, if I'm not mistaken. They weren't sure if he was going to play again after that injury. Nico Collins hurt and a little disappointing a little bit last year too on the field. Now, that might have been because they were double and triple coveraging Nico Collins once Tank Dell was out. Mixon's going to miss the first 4 games of the year because he didn't meet the deadline in time for the injury. So that's a big deal. And CJ Stroud just looked off the mark a little bit last year. And I'm kind of
sophomore slump.
Well, yes, correct. So he had the sophomore slump. I hope he has a much better year because I think he's a really talented QB and can put up a lot of yards. But he's going to be down at least one weapon in Mixon. Who knows if Tank Dell's 100% healthy? Do I still think they're better? Yeah.
I'm sorry to cut you off, Nick. But watch out for Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb is coming into this Houston team, and I feel like a lot of people have kind of written him off. I could really see him being a really good fit for that Texans team. I really can.
I like Chubb. I hope he gets enough opportunities, enough reps to really – he could take the starting job depending on if Mixon is not healthy. I said if, because Mixon has had a lot of injuries over the years. Looking at the rest of this division, I think Trevor Lawrence is one of the most overrated quarterbacks in the league. I've said that for quite a few years. He was overpaid. He was given one of the largest contracts, and he has not performed since he's been in the league whatsoever. Now, the one thing I will give him is he hasn't had proper weapons for the couple years that he's been in the league, but the guy is paid like he's a top 5 quarterback, and he's not performing like a top 5 quarterback at all. Yeah. So I don't really, and by the way, Travis Hunter, I think he's a wild card, to be quite honest. I don't know. They keep saying he's going to be the next big sensation, being able to play on both sides. He's going to eventually have to pick one side of the ball. There's no way he's going to be able to play both sides of the ball and remain healthy.
I don't know. That might be true, but even if he does play one, and if he does play one side of the ball, he'll be playing corner because that's just a more valuable position. But there is something to be said if your corner can also play wide receiver when you need him to at times on some certain plays and can play on special teams. So that does help him a lot.
I could see him be a plug-and-play guy. Like if someone's hurt, like they can move him to the offensive side of the ball.
There is something to be said about that. That does
They'll probably have special packages too for him offensively.
So like if they want to pull a trick play out once in a while, I could see them doing that. Looking at the other two, Tennessee's a dumpster fire, just in every way, shape, or form. They have no idea who their quarterback is really going to be. Will Levis was a complete bust. I don't think he's coming back.
No, he's out. He's out all season. He had shoulder surgery.
Well, no, I think he's just going to be gone. I just don't see him fitting in the league whatsoever.
He'll be a backup for some teams.
He'll be a backup. He's good enough to be a backup.
But that whole situation is a mess. The Colts, the Anthony Richardson situation is an interesting one because if people knew his agent came out and publicly destroyed the Colts.
What an absolute idiot his agent is.
You and I talked about that on an MTGP episode. Yeah.
I think I just talked about it by myself, actually.
But I think you and I had discussed it at one point. But it was terrible. Like, I don't know what his agent and himself have no leverage whatsoever in that situation. Yeah. He is injured. He took himself out of a game, number one. So this guy has no leg to stand on. So if I'm looking at this division, even with the Texans having the 2 injuries, I still think they win the division. I think 9 wins that division. Yeah. I don't think you're going to need double digits to win. I guess you got to go Jacksonville too, even though I don't like them a whole lot. And then I would go, I don't know, between the Colts and the Titans, you can pretty much go 3-4, 4-3, however you really want to look at it. But I think the Texans and the Jaguars are 1 and 2.
Well, the thing is, people were talking about and I was talking about this on a podcast. Like, people were making it sound like it's so preposterous to start Daniel Jones over Anthony Richardson, and they were so hyper focused on how bad Daniel Jones was without ever actually comparing him to Anthony Richardson. And Anthony Richardson, I mean, Daniel Jones didn't have a good season last year. Anthony Richardson unquestionably had a worse season than Daniel Jones did last year.
Oh no, that's not the debate. I think Daniel Jones will be better this year than Anthony Richardson, even if he was given a chance. I just think Anthony Richardson took his chances away by pulling himself out of a game last year.
But I don't even know if that's the reason why they're not starting him. I think it's all. Here's the thing with Anthony Richardson. He is, first of all, he's not a good quarterback.
He's not.
Which is obviously a problem for him. Second of all, he took himself out of a game, which makes him appear soft.
Yeah.
And third of all, now the third thing is that his agent is chirping because he didn't get a starting job.
Didn't he demand a trade?
Three things you don't want to be known for as a quarterback.
Didn't he demand a trade, if I'm not mistaken, also?
No, he did not. He didn't demand a trade. He was just saying, like, we don't have trust in the team. But he never actually came out and demanded a trade. But yeah, like, what kind of leverage does his agent think that they have? Like it is actually embarrassing.
But like Ben said, I feel bad for Jonathan Taylor also with the Colts because this guy is a stud running back. And I think if I'm Jonathan Taylor, I'm demanding to myself out of Indianapolis at this point.
Yeah, I think he's great as long as he carries the ball over the goal line.
Well, yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
No, I loved him. I loved Jonathan Taylor in his Wisconsin days.
Yeah.
Starting to become a while ago though too now, especially for a running back. So I think we all agree. I am going to take the Texans to win the division. They might be a team that maybe gets off to a little bit of a sluggish start and picks it up later on in the year and maybe rides that in because I actually think they can make a very deep run to get into the playoffs this year.
If healthy.
Here's the thing I'll say real quick about the Jaguars. If they could fix their defense, if Trevor Lawrence can stay healthy, because I think that's been a problem. I know you guys are talking about his performance. Let's be honest, though. Trevor Lawrence, for the better part of the last year and a half, has not been healthy because he was very good in late 2022 into the first half of 23 before he had those knick-knack injuries. Last year, obviously, he had the concussion. If he's healthy out there, I like this offense. I like their head coach, who's a very offensive mind, Liam Cohen. I think that's going to help him, too. I wouldn't be surprised if the Jaguars are actually – if they could put it all together, if their defense, they could be contending for a playoff spot. That's their ceiling, I believe. But I still think the Texans have too much, and then the other two teams, the Colts and the Titans, are two of the worst teams and not only in just the AFC South, but in the actual AFC as a whole. That quarterback situation with the Colts is one of the worst in the entire league. I mean, and the funny thing is, though, they might actually have the most talent on offense with Pittman, with Jonathan Taylor, with bringing in, with drafting Warren and tight end. But the question mark is going to be, can Daniel Jones give him the ball? Anthony Richardson, there's been way too many things in 3 years to be the fourth overall pick and having these problems. I have no idea what Shane Steichen's doing there. He's been dealing with a mess. And then as far as Cam Ward, the first overall pick goes, look, it's a transition time there in Tennessee. It's going to take time. I mean, the Titans open up in Denver against the Broncos, who got better defensively in the Mile High Air. It's going to be a growing pains year there for the Titans. So I'm going to take – I don't think it really matters finishes 3-4 because they're both very, very bad. But I think that the Texans win the division. I think they get hot in the second half, and I think they can actually make they could make a very, very deep run of their full potentials out there. And I think Jaguars can actually have a bounce-back year if Trevor Lawrence is healthy, if their defense plays better, because that offense, I think, has the potential to be really, really good with Travis Hunter and with Brian Thomas Jr. as well. So something to watch there in the South. All right, we go to the AFC North. Boy, what a division this is. Boy, it's been so many different ways we can take this, from the Ravens to the Bengals to the Steelers to the Browns. Nick Morgasen, I'll go to you. I started with you, right? So
yeah.
But it's your other division because it's your favorite quarterback, it's your favorite team. So I want to give you the floor on this. What do you make of this division as a whole? Actually, two of your favorite quarterbacks, even though one's not playing this year. The division as a whole it's got a lot to break down. So what do you make of this all?
I actually think this is a good division, except for one team that has a circus going on in Cleveland, but with four quarterbacks. Baltimore should win this division. I'm just going to come out off the top and say that.
We can all say that.
Yeah. Pittsburgh, obviously Aaron Rodgers, 40-plus-year-old quarterback. Obviously got hurt after 4 plays in New York. Very fragile. He probably will make more Pat McAfee show appearances than games on the field, if you really want my actual opinion on that. Or wins. I don't like the Bengals again either. And I'm going to go on the record and say that again. I know people gave me a lot of crap last year when I said the Bengals were going to be a terrible team. Everyone went after me in the comments. What happened to them last year? I mean, The last 2 years, I got that right with the Bengals. And I think their offensive line is still a struggle. Burrow's, I don't know if he's 100% healthy either. They had the scuffle with Trey Hendrickson, who finally signed a deal. But I think that's an issue because he hasn't been in training camp, or has he been holding in, as they say. But I think Baltimore is definitely going to win this division. I don't really think it's going to be close. That's just my opinion of it. I think Baltimore will win this easily. I think Pittsburgh's going to finish second, believe it or not, with Aaron Rodgers, because I think he'll be a little bit healthier than he was with the Jets. I think the offensive line is a better fit for Aaron Rodgers than it was in New York. So I think he'll avoid taking the massive hits. And Bengals will be third, and the Cleveland crap show is going to finish fourth. So that's how I see it.
Yeah, Nick, I agree with you on the division. To me, the Ravens, I think, are a 13, 14, 15 win team. I'm really high on them this year. When I spoke about in the AFC West about how the Chiefs are going to have a tougher time getting to the Super Bowl this year, teams like the Ravens are why. They're loaded on defense. The thing is, Lamar, I think, is out there to prove. Mark Andrews is the nightmare that he's still living through with the drop in the playoff game. As long as Derrick Henry can stay healthy and such. I mean, I know he had an unbelievable last year. It's tough to duplicate that, but I don't think he will have to do as much. I love some of their players on offense. Their defense, though, I mean, this team is probably the most complete team in the conference. I truly believe so. Barring some catastrophic injury to like a Lamar or a Derrick Henry or something like that, I think if they could set the tone in the first 4 weeks, if you look at their schedule, they set the tone in the first 4 weeks. I think it's their number one seed to lose. So I love them in this division. Now, 2 and 3 is where it gets to be tricky. I have been high on the Steelers for years. I constantly have said it on the football forecast, how I defend Mike Tomlin and how this team does well. I'm not high on him this year. I think this is for Aaron Rodgers. He's been modestly productive his last 2 full healthy seasons. It's not been anything special, but another year older, he's on another new team. I think it's just too much of a change, and I think he's just aging into a massive regression. And that's what we saw the Steelers were late in 2024, was a massive regression. Those last 4 weeks of the regular season and into the playoffs, I mean, they just completely fell apart. I don't think that changes. And who benefits from that? Are the Bengals. And that Trey Hendrickson signing, I think, is a game changer. And let's be honest, the Bengals won that contract battle. Being able to sign him and Higgins and Chase and all that stuff, and as long as their coordinator Al Golden creates a new identity on the defensive side of the ball, limits the explosive plays, if they can win it in the red zone, I think that helps Cincy get a couple of extra wins right there. Joe Burrow in any other year would have won Offensive Player of the Year last year. He was that great. He's not the issue. Nick's 100% right. The line has been a mess for years. I got to imagine it's going to improve at some point. Their receivers are there. I mean, on offense, I think they could be explosive. Trey Hendrickson being there, he's going to want to play for a huge contract. I think that gives him a lot of motivation too. The Bengals know, they've heard about this for a long time, about how they struggled on defense. I think they can get double-digit wins. I think they'll finish second. I think the Steelers fall to third. The Browns, to me, are flat out under, though. I mean, there's way too many questions on offense regarding this team. Joe Flacco, 41-year-old Joe Flacco. This is not the Joe Flacco of a couple of years ago when they brought him in. There's too many questions on offense. And I mean, this is not even the same Browns makeup of a few years ago. So I don't think there's going to be a deja vu moment there in Cleveland. I think the closest thing to them winning an award this year is going to be Myles Garrett on the defensive side. He may win Defensive Player of the Year. That's the closest thing they're going to get to winning anything this year. I think they're a 3 or 4 win team max. So I'm going to take the Ravens to win the division and be the number 1 seed. I'm going to take the Bengals to bounce back and get double-digit wins and make the playoffs as a wild card too. I think the Steelers are an under 500 team this year for the first time in the Mike Tomlin era, and I think that the Browns are just flat out terrible, and they'll finish 4th. Nick D.
All right. So, like I said, yes, I think the Ravens are winning the division. I don't think there's a whole lot of question about that. And, I guess the biggest question, at least from last season, was the Ravens defense. They often gave up a lot of points last year. And I still think that's going to be, I think that's going to still be an issue. And, I just love the the combination between Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. In terms of the rest of that division, I agree the Browns are probably going to be in last place. I remember there was a guy who called into Francesa one time and suggested that maybe football teams have quarterback rotations like baseball teams do with starting pitchers.
I remember that.
Right.
And the funny thing is that the Browns could do that if they wanted.
I mean, they have 4 of them.
Like they could do it if they really wanted. So you might, and I think all of them are going to get some chance to play. So it's basically going to be like a quarterback rotation with the Browns, it looks like. In terms of the middle of that division, I don't agree with you, Johnny, about the Steelers. I don't think the season this year is going to be all that much different than it was last year, which is going to be a typical Steelers season. I think they can win. I think that they can look good in the first half and then crash and burn post-Thanksgiving, which is always what happens with these Mike Tomlin teams. And that's basically what happened last year. People forget it, but the Steelers, up until Thanksgiving, they really were a fairly good team last year. Mm-hmm. And I think it's going to be a similar situation because the quarterback situations are going to be very similar. I mean, I can't guarantee it's going to, but Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers, I mean, it's like that meme with the guy has like a shirt, swaps out one shirt for the exact same shirt. That's what I think it's going to look like with the Steelers this year. I mean, swapping out Rodgers for Russell Wilson. They're both Hall of Fame quarterbacks that are way past their prime. So I think it's going to be a very similar type of thing where it's like, how the Steelers are. They're a team that can never like figure anything out on offense and things like that. And I think it's going to look similar for the Steelers. And by the way, if you think I'm wrong about DraftKings, I'm looking at the odds on DraftKings, and Vegas is closest to being right, closer than anybody else is to being correct about these things. The over-under for wins is 8.5. So, I mean, and by the way, it's minus 125 for over 8.5 and plus 105 for under 8.5. So if anything, it's slightly even better than 500. So the Steelers will most likely hover around 500. I don't think they're going to be a bad team. I think they'll be an okay team. The other thing with Rodgers is that it is true. He's a year older, and I don't disagree with that. However, it's also true that he's another year removed from his Achilles injury, and that can also help him. Like Achilles injuries take a long time to recover from. He might not have really been at his best last season. And as much as I say the Steelers never get their offense figured out, which they never do, they're going to have it more figured out than the Jets did last season. Where
that's not saying a lot.
But like as bad as like the Jets had a bad season last year, there's no way the Steelers season next year is going to be as bad as it was. And, the Jets head coach last season was basically just a gym teacher. Like, that's essentially all he was.
Jeez.
So, it's going to be better. I think that Rodgers will have a surprisingly better season. That's what than he's expected to have. In terms of the Bengals, the thing with the Bengals is that last season, it was a worst case scenario. Like everything that happened with the Bengals last year pretty much was basically the worst case scenario. And I think that unlike the Broncos and the Chargers, I think they finished the season fairly strong last year. I mean, I understand they ended up missing the playoffs, but let's say they had made the playoffs. Like, let's say for the sake of argument, the Broncos ended up, say hypothetically lost to the Jets and Greg Zuerlein was able to kick a 50-yard field goal. For the sake of argument, let's just say that happened. Very specific, but let's just say that happened. The Bengals would have been like one of the top favorite. It probably wouldn't have happened, but would have been one of the top favorite teams to come out of the AFC. I mean, they would have had better odds than the Steelers or the Chargers. So I think that and I'm not saying that this is some type of injustice to the Bengals or anything like that, but let me just be clear. I think that the Bengals were a better team at the end of the season last year than they finished in the standings. I think they were a better team than the Chargers, the Broncos, and the Steelers at the end of last season. And I don't think that's something you can completely ignore. I don't think it is. Like, I think the Bengals will be. I think they'll probably be the top wild card team. And I understand so much went wrong for them last year. But my analogy would be this: let's say, for the sake of argument, you and your buddies go out and you just get drunk on a Saturday night. One of your friends finds you asleep on the street the next morning. Is that going to happen the next week? It probably won't. So last year, that was Saturday night. They were passed out on the street after getting drunk, and it's probably going to be at least a little better this time.
Like,
I don't even know how to follow that.
I'm just going to say it right now. You're welcome when that shows up in the front of the episode.
Yeah. There's our open right there. Absolutely.
No,
So,
I should be saying you're welcome because I provided it.
yes. Thank you. So, Nick D, just to clarify, though, so you're going to have you and I basically still have the same order. We just disagree on the records pretty much then.
Did you say? Yes. Actually, we mostly agree. I disagree a little bit on the Steelers, but I like the Ravens, then the Bengals, then the Steelers, and then the Browns.
Okay. So the only thing you and I disagree really is just how the Steelers record pretty much.
I think the Steelers will be better than you think they're going to be.
Okay. That's very, very fair. Ben, what do you make of it? What do you make of all this?
Wow, I don't know if I can tell what Nick just said.
Yeah,
but
try to.
I will say, I think the Ravens, to me, I agree with Johnny. I think that the Ravens are going to be one of the most complete teams in the AFC. If you remember, they missed a lot with Zay Flowers in the receiving room last year because of injury in the last couple of years. And you bring him in. You know, of course, Derrick Henry comes into a completely much better situation than he did at the end with Tennessee. And defenses are just going to have absolute nightmares to follow because Lamar Jackson is an absolute threat via his arm and via his legs. And then, of course, you have Derrick Henry behind him with a very good offensive line. You also have to remember, folks, that Ronnie Stanley came back to help solidify their offensive line at left tackle. I think Mark Andrews is going to be much better this year. I know he missed a lot of time last year. And they have a lot of depth, too, which I think is really big about the Ravens. I mean, heck, you have Isaiah Likely, who theoretically could be a number one tight end for a lot of teams. He is their tight end number 2. And, of course, you can kind of put different packages between, guys like Henry at the goal line. You could put 2 tight ends. And then you also have to remember, I mean, he's not the same guy he once was, but if you can at least give him something, I mean, heck, watch out. DeAndre Hopkins is on the Baltimore Ravens as like their number 3. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins, he's not the same guy he once was. He's kind of like an Odell Beckham situation right now. But, heck, if he comes in and tries to win a ring for a team like that, I mean, it's not a bad situation to have. And, of course, you have Rashad Bateman. You have Zay Flowers at the top there. It's a very, very good team. I really like the team a lot. Their defense, of course, with Kyle Hamilton, in the back end. And they obviously have the coaching. They're extremely stout defensively. So, yeah, I'm going to go with the Ravens as my number 1. I think for me, I'm going to go probably 13-4. I think is a pretty good, fair assessment to have them. The Bengals at number 2. The biggest thing about the Bengals is always their starts. Now, I agree with Nick specifically, too. The Bengals, they had a very strong second half last year. However, the biggest thing about the Bengals is giving up the big play defensively, and that's where I agree with Nick Morgasen. The Bengals, their front is not too bad. It's about their secondary, and I always feel like every single year they never really address their secondary. They always seem to feel like they always keep the same exact guys around, and it's like, what do you think is going to happen per se? They're always a penalized type of team, too. I've seen this Bengals teams for countless years. They're always a team defensively that is extremely aggressive. And another thing, too, is you look at the preseason. Joe Burrow played a lot more in this preseason than he has in the past years because he's been worried about the slow starts that the Bengals have had the last couple of years. So I think that it's more of an initiative and more of a driving force to have the Bengals play a lot better to start the year because they know that they don't want to be, look what DiMartino was talking about with the Bengals finishing on. They could have been a game or two, for making the playoffs. If they had a couple of games earlier on in the season that they were able to win, then they could have been making the playoffs, right? So I think that they want to have a way to have a good start, have it really check their schedule to kind of know who they're going to be playing. But I do think that if you're the Bengals, get to a much better start, and I think that you're probably going to be around a 10-win type of team. I think you're going to be like 10-7. So I'm going to go with that. I think that the Bengals are going to have a good enough first half, because you have a very good quarterback, and you've got a lot of your guys back. I think Chase Brown is going to be also really good as well, too. So I'm going to go with the Bengals at 10-7. I'm going to kind of go with my gut here. And then the Steelers, I'm going to agree with Nick DiMartino. I think getting Aaron Rodgers is the most Steelers type of signing out there because Mike Tomlin, a lot of Steeler fans want gone. Aaron Rodgers is just another year older, and it's completely Steelers. They're extremely a mid organization at this point in time in their career, and you basically add a quarterback at the back end of his career and a coach specifically that basically strives mediocrity. You put those two things together, what are you going to get? You're going to get about a 9-8 type of record, and that's what I think that the Steelers are going to have. They're going to probably be able to win a lot of teams against pretty mediocre to bad teams. And then against, kind of some of the top or elite type of teams, I think it'd be kind of a wild card, kind of up and down. But I do think a lot of the times they play at home, I think they're a very good home team. You also brought back TJ Watt. I think that's a very underrated type of thing because I remember TJ Watt was trying to find another contract. He's, of course, one of the best guys offensively. So I think this is going to be 9-8. And then, of course, you have the Cleveland Browns where you're going to be probably, like Nick was talking about, probably you have Dylan Gabriel, you have Shedeur Sanders, you have Joe Flacco. You basically it's what it is. But they're not going to be good at all. They're going to be basically the Titans.
All right, we'll find out there in the AFC North. All right, we saved the best division for last, and what I mean by that is we have 3 AFC East guys with me for this. Boy, I guess we can try and make this quick. I think we all agree pretty much on the Buffalo Bills, right? Being the top of this division.
It's not close.
Yeah. But I tell you what, though, this is where we might differ, though, a little bit, is 2nd through 4th between the Jets, the Patriots, and the Dolphins. And the Jets and the Patriots, who ironically enough, these are the 2 teams represented by 3 of our guys here, are 2 teams that actually had a busy offseason. We know about the Patriots bringing in Mike Vrabel, be the head coach, which I love that idea. I think a legitimate head coach for Drake May is great. We know the Jets have gone through a big transition this year, bringing in Aaron Glenn to be the head coach, new GM, new head coach, basically new offense with Justin Fields under center. Ben, let me go to your Patriots first. I've seen their number this year, and I think Mike Vrabel has that kind of potential with the way that Drake May played in the second half of the year. And you bring in a legit head coach and Mike Vrabel I think it's not out of the realm of possibility. We're talking about an 8 or 9 win Patriots team if everything works out. But you being the Patriots fan, what do you think of it?
No, I know we talked off air about it, Johnny. And I really do like this team this year for the Pats, just because I'm a fan, but I do think they did really add a lot on their defense. Of course, you have the front, you got a guy in Milton Williams to match along with a guy like Christian Baltimore, who's coming back from a lot of the stuff off the field, and you pair him up kind of in that front end, and of course, another guy like Keon White. You got basically a 300 monster on your front, and then of course, you had a guy like Harold Landry, who basically has played with Mike Vrabel in the past. You, of course, have in the back end, you've got Carlton Davis to be your quarterback number 2 behind Christian Gonzalez. And Carlton Davis is an extremely good player and a good quarterback defensively. Then, of course, on your offense, you added a guy in Stephon Diggs who, granted, he might not be a number 1 receiver, but he's a lot better than what Drake May, of course, had from last year. And I do think, I looked at the receiving depth chart for what the projection is going to be. The Patriots are going to be having 8 receivers coming into this overall season, at least the initial projection, which means that they're going to have a lot more depth than last year. And then, of course, in their running back room, watch out for Trevion Henderson. I think this is a guy specifically. This is me, Ohio State, type of fan per se, but I love Trevion Henderson. I think he's going to be a very good guy in the pass catching backfield, to be with Drake May, and I think that he didn't really get that much of that last year. And then, of course, Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel, I think, is going to come in. He, of course, has played with the team, but he's going to bring a culture, and I think that's one thing that they really missed from last year with Jerron Mayo, and I think that the Patriots' schedule, I think, is a lot more favorable also than it has been in past years. So I really think that when I'm kind of looking at the overall win total for this team, I think it's going to be a 10-win team. I think this is going to be like the Chargers of last year.
All right. Nick D, your Jets, what do you think?
Well, I think we all agree the Jets are probably going to finish in last place.
No.
Wait. Wait.
I don't, but go ahead.
Okay.
I don't.
Well, I'm looking at the over-under right now, and the Jets over-under is I'm looking at it on DraftKings. It's roughly 6.
Yeah.
The over-under. I mean, over 6.5 is plus 120 for the Jets. So that's how. So it's roughly like 6. So they're projected to be the worst team in the AFC East. That's not why I think they're going to be the worst team. I think they will be the worst team anyway. I think the interesting is to me is the teams is the 2 to 3 spot. I think that if the Dolphins can stay healthy, they should be 2. I think that they should be able to get second place if they can stay healthy, which is a big if. If they can't stay healthy, I like New England to finish in second place. Look, New England's a little bit of a wild. But this whole division is a bit of a wild card because we don't know if Tua is going to stay healthy, and we don't know what Drake May has for his second season with Mike Vrabel. There's a lot of potential, but we don't know what it's going to actually look like. Mm-hmm. So it's hard for me to say, but I think that the Jets look like the worst. I think they have the worst quarterback situation. And overall, I think they're just like the worst team. I mean, like, I don't really buy into this whole Aaron Glenn thing. I mean, Aaron Glenn reminds me a little bit of Mike McCagnon as a head coach. I mean, he was replacing the worst GM we could have imagined, which is what Aaron Glenn's doing right now, replacing Jeff Ulbrich. So like I said, the gym teacher. And he's talking a big game. Which, okay, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with him talking a big game, but that doesn't mean he's going to be able to back it up. And I'm not totally look, I'll give him a chance. Like I'll give anybody else a chance, but this is striking me as like the Mike McCagnon of head coaches, like talking a big game. And I just don't think it's going to work out very well. Like, I don't really have any faith in Justin Fields. He's never given me a reason to believe it. And even if you think it's true that if Justin Fields is in the right scenario, he can succeed. Well, that right scenario is not the Jets. It certainly isn't the Jets. We're not the ones in the division with Mike Vrabel as the head coach. So, like, I have no reason to believe any of this. I think there's a good chance Tyrod Taylor might end up starting at some point. Like, and not because Justin Fields gets hurt, but because he's bad. I just don't have any faith in the Jets this year. It's very much different from last year. Last year, I was stressed. This year, my expectations are so low, I can't be stressed. Like, they can only surprise me in a good way. So for me, my pick is Buffalo in first place, Miami in second place, New England in third place, though I think it'll be close, and then the Jets in dead last.
All right, Nick Morrison, you're the other Jet fan. I think you disagree with that, right?
Yeah, I do. I don't think the Jets are the worst team in the division.
Well, I never thought I'd hear those words because you're a more pessimistic Jet fan than I am.
I think you're not giving them enough credit for certain aspects that they have. But what Miami is one concussion away from not having a quarterback.
There's Zach Wilson as their backup.
They have Zach Wilson as their backup. Their running back situation is a dumpster. They have so many injuries on the offensive line. Do I have to keep going with Miami? I mean, like...
And they can't play when it matters most, and that's the second half of the season with cold. I looked at actually because I was on a pod last night with somebody else, and I was looking at their last couple games, and they're pretty much it's brutal. It's like at Pittsburgh, at New England, pretty much all cold environment type of atmospheres.
They stink in cold environments. It's not even a discussion.
Oh, no. But here's the thing, though. You're talking about how they're like a concussion away. Oh, they're a concussion away from being as bad as the Jets.
I shouldn't even say one concussion, one hit away from him being.
No, but the point is though, it's like, okay, even if you have the Dolphins with Zach Wilson and the Jets with Justin Fields, is it even such a given that the Jets are better than the Dolphins with Zach Wilson? Like, it's not even that convincing to me.
No, my point is that without Tua, if you look at the numbers, they just don't win at all without Tua being under center.
In fairness, though, I think Zach Wilson is better than most of the Dolphins' backup quarterbacks because their backup quarterbacks have historically, with Tua, been so bad.
I'm just saying there's so much. I'm just saying there's so much that they're banking on with Tua at the starting quarterback position that they really don't have anything else after that, and that's a problem. Like I said, they had running back issues. They've had receivers. Is Tyreek Hill going to behave himself all year and not get in trouble? That's a whole nother issue in itself. So there's so many question marks on the Miami side that I think the Jets will accidentally stumble into third place in this division as opposed to finishing last.
Here's just where I disagree, though. I think that even if everything goes so wrong for the Dolphins, every possible thing, it's still not convincing to me that the Jets are better than that team.
Go ahead.
I think I will say this with Nick's point about the Dolphins. As much as I'm not the massive big believer on this team from this year, I think that their offensive playmakers, you look at it around a lot more. You got Devin Achane, you got Jalen Waddle, you got Tyreek Hill. And I look at the Jets, you got Garrett Wilson, Josh Reynolds, Al Lazard, Breece Hall, Braylon. I don't know. I agree with Nick in terms of the overall Miami receivers. I trust with Nick in terms of Tua. I don't know if he's going to be healthy.
I agree on the other front. I think that Buffalo is going to run away with a double-digit record. It's not going to be close. Like, to be honest, Josh Allen should start resting now because he's guaranteed to make the playoffs. So I'm not even thinking that I shouldn't be thinking that far ahead because an injury could take him out. But Bills will run away. I think New England is second, even though I hate the Patriots with every part of my being. But I think the Patriots will win 8 or 9 games, probably. And then, like I said, I think the Jets will accidentally stumble into third place. And then I think just because there's too many questions with the Dolphins, I think they're going to finish last.
It's the exact order I have. I'm not sold on the Dolphins either. And even if Tua is out there, that defense is very suspect. I mean, remember that secondary has completely changed from last year. So so they brought in a whole different defensive system. I'm just not sold on it all. And the drop off, I'll tell you right now, Tua gets hurt. It doesn't matter what the names of the receivers are. Now, to Nick D's point, I think Ben, you might have said this too. Yes, Zach Wilson is a better backup than Skylar Thompson was down there in Miami, and it'll be interesting to see if Zach Wilson gets a shot because maybe a year in learning with Sean Payton there in Denver, maybe that helps him out a little bit. I'll be curious to see there, but I mean, the Dolphins may put up 30 points a game, but they're going to give up like 35 to 40 a game.
No, they're going to put up 30 and they're going to give up 60.
What they're going to be? They could be like the Bengals were last year, where they score 30 and they give up 40.
And they got a lot of star receivers.
And how many close games did the Bengals lose because of their defense?
The defense and special teams too. Something we didn't mention before. Remember, Evan McPherson missed a lot of kicks last year too. You got to get that correct too. Special teams could also be in play there for the Dolphins as well. I'm just not sold on him. I think Mike McDaniel, this will be his last year. I think at best the Dolphins could be a spoiler towards the end of the year, but what will really be spoiled will be Mike McDaniel's coaching tenure there because this will be his last year there with the Dolphins. The Patriots, I think, are the true wild card in this entire conference, let alone just the division. So that will be something to watch there. The football forecast is presented by Playback. Watching sports is more fun with others, but we spend too much of our time watching alone. Playback is a virtual space where communities can stream live sports together, with everyone perfectly synced up. Creators can hop on stage, deliver their own play-by-play analysis and commentary, and invite viewers up for Q&A. Playback makes watching sports fully interactive and a social experience. From playing fantasy sports, repping your favorite players and teams, and watching with the commentators and communities you care about. Win or lose, sports are best enjoyed together. Join our community by going to playback.tv/ETB Network to find out more, including our live stream schedule. And now back to the show. All right, one bold take from each of us in this conference, and I'll go first here. And my bold take, and I kind of referenced this earlier, I think this is a team that gets hot in the second half of the year and is going to make a bold play this year. I actually like the Texans to get to the AFC Championship.
Wow.
I really do. If they've made consecutive divisional rounds like the Ravens and the Bills have, but it seems like we don't talk about them like the Ravens and the Bills. I think this defense can, it could get burned into an aggressive style, but it showed up in postseason moments over the last couple of years. They played. Remember 2 years ago when they did play the Ravens, they played them well in the first half. We saw how they played against the Chargers last year, and they were in it with the Chiefs until the second half last year. I mean, and then we saw what happened with some mistakes, but they were in it with the Chiefs as well. I know the offense disappointed last year, but I really think if that offensive line can keep C.J. Stroud outright, I think this team bounces back, especially if even if they get off to a rocky start. They get going from the second half on. I think this team takes off. I think they make it to the AFC Championship, and they have a different coaching staff there. I'm buying the Texans to get to the AFC Championship. Nick D, what's yours?
Mine, and I mentioned it already. I think Bo Nix is going to have a sophomore slump, and I think it's going to be a surprisingly bad season for Denver. I think Denver finishes in last place.
Okay.
That's what I think.
I got 3 bold takes. I think I'm going to say the Cleveland Browns and Shedeur Sanders Shedeur Sanders is going to be starting for the Cleveland Browns midpoint of this upcoming season. I think that's pretty much going to be the Browns are just a complete dumpster fire. They want to find some entertainment. No better entertainment to have, to be in the bottom of the barrel to have a guy in Shedeur Sanders. I also think that Daniel Jones is going to be benched midpoint throughout the season, and Anthony Richardson is going to get another chance to prove himself with the Indianapolis Colts. I know Shane Steichen said that, Daniel Jones is going to be a long-term guy throughout the season. I don't believe that. I really don't. And then my other one, I'm trying to remember specifically. Those are my 2 that I have currently right now that I have for right now.
Okay. And Nick?
All right. I have 2 bold takes, one both out of the same division, out of the AFC North.
Okay, let's get this.
I have my other one. I remember.
All right, you want to go?
Kevin Stefanski is going to get fired after this upcoming season.
That's a good one. I actually think that's a good one.
Yeah.
You think he's going to get fired, Stefanski?
I do. Yep.
That's a good one. But my 2 takes are out of the AFC North. I think Shedeur Sanders gets cut at some point during the season.
No way.
Yeah. And I think the Bengals are going to miss the playoffs again this year. I've been right the last 2 years. I'm going to ride that again.
Hey, if it hasn't been broke, don't change.
So you think they're going to end up asleep on the street, drunk again?
I guess he's assuming that.
All right, Nick D, 1 over, 1 under from the AFC. What do you think?
For win totals.
For win totals, yes.
Okay, so for over under win totals, I like the Jets under for the and wait, I'm looking at the Raiders right now. I like the Raiders over. Over 6.5.
Over 6.5. Okay.
Wow.
Ben.
Okay, so the Browns at 4.5. I like that a lot. I think that's pretty much a fair assessment right there. I think.
So you like the over on that?
Yeah, I do, but slightly.
Okay.
That's that. Let's see. The Chiefs 11.5. I'm gonna go over.
Okay. Nick Morgasen, what do you have? What are yours?
I think you and I are going to be similar on one of these, Johnny. Dolphins, I'm jamming the under, big time.
Yeah.
I don't like the 8.5 number. I think that's gonna. I think they might win 6-7 games, maybe, if they're healthy. Now for an over, I mean, I have quite a few unders. I think the Bengals are going to be under 9.5. Also, I just don't see them winning 10 games. And then I was looking at the Pats number. What was the Pats number? 8.5?
I believe it was 8.5 or 9.5.
So on coverage it's 8.5. I could see them winning 9 games. So I guess I could see the slight over on the Pats.
Yeah, I agree with you on both of those. I mean, my big one. I mean, these are 2 plays that I don't like. I love them. I love the. First, I'll agree with you. I absolutely love the Dolphins under the 8.5. Again, just way too many question marks with them. And then the over, I mean, this is one I absolutely love because I love this team in this conference. I am hammering the over on the Ravens, 11.5. I absolutely love the over. I think if they're fully healthy, that team, the way they're stacked, looks like a 13, 14, 15 win team this year. So that's why I will take that. All right, so who comes out of this conference? Who makes it to the AFC Championship game? That's the thing here too. And then since you guys won't be on with me tomorrow, I'll give you a quick one for the NFC. I'll give you my AFC Championship game. The Texans against the Ravens. Like I said, I'm high on the Texans. I'm high on the Ravens. I think the Chiefs are going to have a very tough time getting there this year because I think there's going to be a little bit of a Super Bowl hangover. That schedule, I think, is going to take a lot out of them. They played a lot of close games last year. Remember, their plus minus was very low for a team that got that as far as they did. I don't think they can get by with that again this year. So I think they're going to fall a bit. I think the Texans will rise up. And again, I love the Ravens this year, so I'm going to take them to make it to there. And if I had to make one of those two teams get to the Super Bowl, I'm taking the Ravens. Nick D.
I like the Chiefs and Bills. I mean, look, the Chiefs have been doing it over and over again. They're going to have a harder time, but they always figure out a way to do it. The refs help out a lot too.
True.
Well, it helps when they wear red stripes too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that would be.
I like the Chiefs and the Bills. The Ravens I could see, but I like the Bills more.
Okay. And that would be the fifth time, by the way, that those two would meet in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So we would have Mahomes versus Allen 5. Ben?
You're talking about the Chiefs refs. I mean, they better, instead of knock it off for the other team, they better shake it off. What's going on? All right. For me, I'm going to go with a matchup that I think was a fun matchup from a couple of years ago, and it was the Week 1 matchup from this past season, and that is the Baltimore Ravens at the Kansas City Chiefs. However, I got the Baltimore Ravens going into Arrowhead this time and winning, very similar like the Bengals going to Kansas City from a couple of years ago and winning. And I got the Ravens going to the Super Bowl.
And for Ben's sake, they'll win by a toe, not lose by a toe.
There
that
you go.
was bad.
Yes. I
All right,
think
Nick.
for revenge.
I mean, this is not going to be surprising. I have Ravens Bills. I just think those two are the best teams. I kind of hope, I want to see the Bills win. They're such a great team over the last 3 to 4 years, and they just can't get over. And I think this is the first time in a long time. Like, I don't think the Chiefs are as strong, so I think this is their opportunity here to win the Super Bowl. I think they're going to come out, and I think they might win the Super Bowl this year.
All right. By the way, since you guys aren't going to be on with me tomorrow, who do you think comes out of the NFC real quick?
I got it.
Ben?
Who you got?
I am going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles and the Green Bay Packers. I think that the Packers with Jordan Love, I kind of just like their team. I mean, the NFC, to me personally, I mean, I think the Eagles, obviously with Sirianni back there, and I think that they're going to have a chip on their shoulder to try to get back and repeat. I know obviously a lot of loss defensively, but the Packers, I think, are going to take another step up. And I know obviously they played each other this past year in Brazil. I think that they're going to have another rematch, and it's going to be I'm going to go at Green Bay. I'm going to go on a limb here. I think the Eagles take a little bit of a slide here this year. Of course, the Super Bowl hangover. I think the Packers are going to be one of the most sneakiest, surprising teams this year to come out of the NFC. So I'm going to go Eagles at Packers for my NFC title game, and I am going to go with the Eagles. I think the Eagles are going to beat the Green Bay Packers. So for my Super Bowl, it's kind of early and often. I'm going to go Eagles and Ravens.
Nick,
Not a bad one.
Nick M, what about you?
I actually like the same matchup that Ben said. I like Eagles Packers. The only thing I would question is because they lost guys like Darius Slay, who is no longer on the team, and they lost a bunch of veteran guys on the defensive side.
I do like Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper Najeen on their back end. I think that they're going to help a lot defensively.
They're a good team, but they definitely lost a lot of those veteran guys that really pushed them forward.
Yeah.
I still have questions on Jordan Love, whether he's 100% healthy, too. I just think the Eagles are going to win, and so I guess I have Eagles-Bills Super Bowl.
That'd be a pretty cool matchup. Nick D, who do you have coming out of the NFC?
I like the Eagles and the Lions. My issue with the Packers in that division is that last season, now it's not guaranteed to be the same, but they struggled a lot in their own division. They went 1-5 in the NFC North last season, and they were lucky to beat the Bears. If it weren't for Caleb Williams not watching the clock, the Packers would have gone 0-6 in their own division. So I think that's a little bit of a concern. I like the Lions, and I think last year the problem with the Lions was just they were injured a lot, and Jared Goff probably got concussed against the Commanders.
Aiden Hutchinson too.
Yeah, Aiden. A lot of injuries that they had last year. So I like the Lions. I think the Lions. I think the NFC is deep, but not very top heavy, unlike the AFC, which is not very deep but very top heavy. So I think there's a lot of different quality teams that can come out. And I don't love that the Lions lost their coordinators, but I still think that they might end up being the best team in the NFC. And the Eagles won the Super Bowl last year. However, what have we seen a lot? We've seen Super Bowl hangovers. And I think their season might end up looking rocky like the Chiefs season did last year after they won the Super Bowl. I think that could easily happen too. I like the Lions to beat the Eagles in the NFC Championship. I think the Lions go to the Super Bowl. As long as Dan Campbell knows he's allowed to kick field goals and punt, I think they can do it.
You mean not go for it on 4th down?
Yeah, he doesn't have to go it on 4th and 25.
Really.
Nick D
As
is
long as he
picking,
realizes that they can go to the Super Bowl.
so Nick D is picking two teams that have actually lost coordinators and coaches from the prior year. That's a pretty interesting play. All right, guys. Well, that puts a wrap on the AFC. But I'll tell you what, Football Forecast is back. It's great to be back. And I'll tell you what, this show is going to be expanding in a multitude of ways. You'll find that out when we tomorrow as well. But not only do we have our show here, but beginning on Thursday, September 4th, right ahead of the first game of the season, and this will happen every Thursday leading into the Thursday night football games, we will have the Thursday night forecast with two guys that you'll see on the NFC side, Grant Winsauer, Michael Rapolo.
You missed me
there. Oh, and Ben,
no, you're on the other one.
You're on the other one. Yes, we're going to get to you.
Oh,
we'll get to
you. There is more. But Grant and Michael will be on the Thursday night. They'll get you ready for the Thursday night game. They will have our picks as well, which will count also towards the regular season, which you'll find out about next week. So that comes out Thursday, September 4th, ahead of Thursday night football. Of course, the kickoff game Thursday between the Cowboys and the defending Super Bowl champion Eagles. And then, of course, the Football Forecast regular season edition. Now, normally we will be airing on Saturdays at noon Eastern, but for the season opener, for the opening week, we will be premiering on Friday, September the 5th. That is so we can give you the Brazil game as well between the Chiefs and the Chargers. So that'll come out at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific here on YouTube and, of course, on our audio platforms. And there's more, but wait, there's more. We got Gridiron Gurus with Grant, with Michael, and Ben Kruse exclusively on our Playback channel. That premieres on September the 7th at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. So that will be like your little pregame show, like
NFL Live.
NFL Live and your kickoff show as you get you ready for the Sunday slates, for the Sunday slate of games. So make sure to check that out. That's on our Playback channel at playback.tv/ETB Network. Make sure to join our community. But wait, there's even more. We have Unnecessary Wagers with Nick D and Liam Bardwick coming back Tuesday, September. Bardwick, that's right. Yeah. Tuesday. And
you added a D in there.
So Nick D and Liam, how's that? That'll be on Tuesday, September the 2nd, and then that'll be moving to Fridays as well. And there's even more. Coming up tomorrow, we will have the NFC preview show here for the Football Forecast. I'll be back there as well. We will have a couple of our returning faces from years past and some new faces joining us tomorrow. So stick around for that. So, like I said, we are just getting started. Nick Morgasen, Nick D, Ben Kruse, great to see you guys. It's great to be back.
Yeah, I can't wait for the NFL season to get underway. Like we said, football content is back. Obviously, Nick D part of Forever Power 5 college football side as well. So the NFL content season is back in full force.
Yes, and we are ready to roll. So for Nick Morgasen, for Ben Kruse, and Nick D, I'm Johnny Montalbano. We will see you tomorrow for the NFC preview. Have a good one, folks.
See ya.
See ya.